All right, sit back, relax. It's time for another Laneway Talks.
Good morning all. Welcome to Laneway Talks, and today we're speaking to Rob Griffiths from Little Murders. We don't know a lot about Rob's background prior to Little Murders, so we're going to find out. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you very much, Vincent. It's a sunny day, so
yes, well, we all know Melbourne. Rob, give us a bit of a background. Where are you from?
I was born in a place called Coventry in England in 1956. Lived there for about 2 years. Then we moved to Blackpool, which is at the top of northeast of England. Then when I was 8 years old, we came to Australia as 10-pound poms. Lived in hostels for a while.
I think, well, when would that be? Early 60s?
No. Early 50s. Jesus.
No, early 60s, I said, yeah.
Yeah, halfway to the early 50s. I thought, my God, how old do you think? No, 1965. We landed in Australia.
Yeah, I mean...
So right in the middle of the pop explosion.
Yeah, gotcha. So the whole Beatles thing was happening, eh?
Yes, I missed the Beatles coming here, but I heard one of the first things I heard was, I can't remember now. I used to think it was the Easy Beats, but that could be just time playing with my mind.
Well, interestingly, we're probably the same kind of age, you and me, and I know very little about the 60s in Australian music. I mean, my whole background starts in the 70s. That's when I really got a love of music, and I understand and I know what was going on. I don't know virtually anything about the 60s. But tell me, with yourself, so you're probably 8 years old, as you said, you come over, when did you start to get a love of music? Did you pick up a guitar, or was it because you're a singer? Was it singing? What was it?
No, well, I mean, in the UK, in England, it's very pop-oriented. I think it's always been, people know music. They have a kind of really strong connection. I think that's why so many good bands come there. And even when I was 8 years old, I remember the girl down the street was a Rolling Stone. She was saying it to me, a Rolling Stones fanatic, and she had like the Rolling Stones costume with the leather jacket and looked a bit like Brian Jones. And I was, I have got four brothers, and they collect records. And my mom used to buy records, and we used to have lots of 45s, So music was very much right from the go, We watched the Beatles at the Royal Variety Show at Palladium. And because I was in a place called Blackpool, that's a kind of seaside resort. And if you read all those books, all the bands went to Blackpool. So it's a very happy thing. I always remember the first pop star I saw was when I was 8 years old, or 7 years old. There was a guy called Tommy Quickly who had a minor hit with a Beatles song. And I saw girls chasing him down the street at the promenade. So it was always kind of music was kind of like you connect straight away over there. And you talk music. That's why you always hear these stories about David Bowie on top of the pops and the schoolyards going crazy, which when I came to Australia, I lived in a hostel. We had, everywhere you went, there was these tannoys playing music all the time. There was always music going on. I can't remember a time when there wasn't music happening.
Well, look, I tend to think, for me, the epicenter of music was the UK. America came second for me, but that kind of changed later on. But if you go around the late 60s, early 70s, and you think about all those fantastic artists that came out of the UK and were playing at your local pubs, it begs belief to understand what was going on. I love Australian music, but for me, Australian music really took off in the 73, 74, 75. We started to really mature, I think.
Yeah.
That's only my opinion. There'll be a lot that say, the 60s with the Easy Beats and I don't know, all these other bands that were there who I didn't know were great, but, we even had miming up until the late 60s here on TV shows, so they'd go on and, they couldn't even sing, because I knew a few of these people, they would just mime. So that they were never ever singers. They could never play live.
UK too.
Did it?
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand that kind of music society happening. But England just had the creme de la creme. It just oozed out. And rhythm and blues, interesting, we'll touch on this later with what you do in your style. Rhythm and blues has such a big part for me musically, but I didn't think when they say blues, but rhythm and blues to me is kind of rock, and it's just rock music. So if you had the Paul Rodgers, Free, all these kind of guys that were happening at the time, and it was rhythm and blues, and it was absolutely mind-boggling just how much was going on there. So you've come over here. When did you start? Did you pick up a guitar first? What did you do, Rob?
Oh no, I picked up a guitar late in life. The first thing I remember doing is just singing along in the bathroom at the hostel, singing along to songs like "Sweet Pea,"
Yeah.
which was by Tommy Rowe, and I liked singing, and that's all. I couldn't play instruments. I tried playing drums. I tried playing everything. I couldn't, but it took me until I was around about 17 before I actually picked up a guitar.
So tell me, if you picked up a guitar around 17,
Yeah.
were you, so in between that time, had you been singing in any little bands or whatever?
No, not at all. No. What happened was I was writing poetry, so that's why it got me into it. Because I met this girl that liked poetry, so I wrote poetry for her, and it
really?
I know.
You don't strike me as a poetry type of guy.
Well, the girl liked it, you like the girl, you write poetry for the girl, and then suddenly I thought, hey, wait a minute, and then when I go back, I got a little thing for, I've tried, I did write a lot of poetry, but
yeah.
I was a poet,
Yeah.
but only a poet because girls like poetry. Because when you're a teenager, you're finding the angle that will get you, touch a girl. So
yeah. Did that stand you up well though? If that's what you were doing for writing lyrics to songs?
Yeah. Well, it's basis, and I wrote songs, kind of like started writing almost straight away. I mean, I couldn't. The thing is, I wrote all this poetry, so it was hanging around, bass and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got a guitar when I was about 17. I bought it off my girlfriend, and I started trying to play guitar. It wasn't really good, and I couldn't play other people's songs. I was useless at trying to cover other people's songs, so the only thing I could do was write my own stuff.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's the only way, I mean, it was all a bit depressing and stuff, but, like now I'm on my own and stuff. But it was the only way I could, I couldn't play that guitar that well enough, so I could never sound like, every time I played somebody else's song,
yeah,
I actually ended up writing a song because it was so far away from the real song.
Tell me, at that stage, therefore, and for everybody listening, Rob is I'm going to call you a mod, okay? That's what you are. You're a mod.
Okay, then.
Think Vespa. And so tell me, is that what you were kind of doing back then, or had you started listening to Led Zeppelin when you picked up the guitar and you started writing? What genre were you kind of doing then?
I was a bit of a folkie, truth be told.
Yeah.
I mean, I went because the chords. I never learned bar chords until a lot later. So I was just playing, what do they call them? Folk chords or acoustic chords?
Yeah, acoustic
most
chords.
Most of that played. But I was when I say acoustic, I would say more acoustic David Bowie and Lou Reed type acoustic. So I was on I was a very big glam rocker.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't go straight to being a mod. My mod days came a lot later. I was very much the Ziggy Stardust. And it was Ziggy Stardust who got me into mod because they used to talk about his mod haircut when he first started.
T-Rex in your flavour?
T-Rex was massive. My lineage goes from, I've kept actually journals of all, because I used to keep diaries and stuff. So it goes from John Lennon was my hero because I was there just at the end of the Beatles. I mean, the first record I bought was Abbey Road when it came out. That's the first album. So, and then I went from John Lennon, T-Rex came along, and that blew my mind. And then Slade. Slade at the showgrounds.
Yeah, I was there too. Yeah,
that was great. And I mean, the first Australian band was Zoot.
Oh, really? I don't know a lot about Zoot, but anyway.
Well, the guy around the corner from me was Graham Boyd, and he was a 3AK announcer.
Yeah. Where
no wrinklies fly. Anyway, he used to take us down to the beach when we were, young teenagers with his son, and the Zoot were playing it. So I saw them lots of times, and they were just amazing. Rick Springfield just blew my mind. He used to spin his guitar on his chest and throw it around about, it seemed to me like, 10 meters in the air, catch it, and start playing again. He was like a guitar god.
Well, it's just funny about that. We toured Cinderella once. I don't know if you remember. They're an American band, glam band, Cinderella.
Yeah, no, no.
And the bass player, it's exactly what he used to do. And I went up to him one day and, we're doing some show somewhere. Anyway, and I said, how the hell do you do that? Well, he goes, well, that's taken 20 years. He said, that's 20 years of experience. I said, how do you do that?
I know. How do you spin a guitar?
Yeah.
I can never work that.
Yeah.
I think he used to have must have a little catch on the middle of his, I don't know.
How funny you should say that, because that's what I thought. Did he have some kind of catch that stuck to his body and he spun it around? Anyway, put that aside. So you've picked up the guitar, you're doing a bit of singing, you're doing your folk thing.
Yeah.
Where
I had a
were
band
you
called
headed?
Feathers.
Feathers.
I know. That was a David Bowie. I lifted off David Bowie's.
Now, that wasn't it. Now, was that around the Black Feather time or later? Was it?
No, same time. I suppose Black Feather, Bop in the Blues was around about.
Yeah.
It'd be about the same time.
Yeah, so you got a little band going, Feathers. So what are you doing? Playing locally or?
No, that was just free piece. It was me just playing guitar badly and my girlfriend singing and another band wasn't even doing harmonies, just singing along too. So we went on the Gong Show. It used to be a radio show.
Yeah.
I think it was called Radio Auditions. Yeah. And so I wrote this song, unfortunately called Help a Sparrow, and it won. And then they said, well, you've won, so next month we're going to the semi-finals and you're going to play at Boxville Shopping Town.
Oh, wow.
And we thought, no, we're not. That was our first gig. We won it, so, oh, God.
What a great start, though. What a great start.
We started at the top and it was all downhill from there. So, I realised I wasn't good enough guitar to go on stage in front of people, and they didn't want us to do original songs. They said, can you do a cover next song? I said, well, no. I can't do covers. I'm not ready yet. It's going to take me a couple more years before I do a cover.
Yeah.
And the only cover I knew was Working Class Hero by John Lennon.
Oh, really? So,
I can't see that going down too well at Shopping Town. We played it once at a pizza parlour, and the owner came and said, that's a bit depressing for us.
So, consequently, you never won the next round.
No, we didn't. Yeah, basically, I went and found myself a drummer and a bass player to cover it. I found a band to cover it up.
So what's happened then? So we're heading towards, say, 20, the age of 20, and
let's see, be about 1920. So,
and we're talking mid 70s, yeah.
Right, yeah. So I'm talking about 1976. So I formed a band called Subway, which is. I know, but I didn't know much about the scene then. I'd lost all interest in Australian music by then. I mean, when you talk about Black Sabbath, that's probably one of the last records I was interested in, Bop in the Blues.
But interesting what you just said then. All right, you go, I'd lost interest in Australian music, and for me, Rob, up until about that time, I'd so focused on the import stores and going to buy imports, and it was all about what was happening in England and a little bit in America and whatever. I then changed and became so focused on Australian music, and it's been my whole life since. But that's only an individual thing, right? And I always find it interesting, like what you said, I then didn't focus on Australia. So you were focusing on what was happening overseas, yeah?
Yeah, I was, I kind of found that back in the early 70s, the bands like Zoot and I used to go to Happening 72 and things like that. I liked bands then, but it seemed like in the mid-70s, and Australian bands seemed to be following UK and America. I always thought that the Skyhawks thing with the glam rock stuff. I don't mind that stuff. Yeah. But I just thought, they're just trailing behind where Australian bands used to be at the forefront. I just thought, they weren't interesting. They were doing something that had been done years before.
See, I love hearing this because I see it the other way in that I felt that by the mid-70s, we'd become so rhythm and blues pub rock and different from anybody else in the world. We did the pub rock thing. We couldn't do the big thing. We couldn't do what T-Rex was doing in the mid-70s or whatever. We were attempting. But on our pub rock circuit, we were unbelievable. But again, it's only personal opinion.
Yeah, but I was too. I was outside of that. I didn't know that was going on. Yeah. So that was, bands, even bands like Dingoes had that hit single. That was all they had. Yeah. That I heard on the radio. I only had to go by the radio. I didn't know what was happening at the pubs. By the time I started going to pubs, I was doing other things.
Yeah.
I started going to church when I was 17 at the same time. Yeah.
You're a churchgoer. I didn't know that.
I was for a while.
Oh, okay.
But only because I was a bit lost in those days.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I went through that kind of thing where I was a bit lost.
Well, funny about that. I went to boarding school, see, so we went to church every morning, 7 days a week. So then, consequently, it never happened again. Anyway, so
it was great for me. I mean, that's where I formed my band. So that's when my first band all came from. We all went to church.
Well,
we're like you too.
Well, let's get to that. So what was the name of that band that you first started?
Well, the Sabbath came from that basically when I was 18, and then the next one was Subway.
And that right, was Subway. Yeah.
Subway's when the guy that lived next door to the church, Ken Hamilton, I got him to play. He was a really good guitarist, and he was the first person who actually, no, some of the people recognize that I could write songs.
Yes.
I used to write like dirges, like, my Exposed Desolation Row by Bob Dylan was a model for me, which you can imagine what that like at pizza parlors. 10 minutes of, putting people on the line.
Well, if that's what's kind of happening then, how do we get to the mod style of music that that started really?
Well, you first have to go through punk, the door of punk. And that was probably, I was with my girlfriend, we were driving past the Baldwin Baths pool.
Oh, yeah.
Baldwin pool, right?
Oh, yeah, I know what that is, yeah.
They played this song on the radio, I'm Stranded by the Saints.
Oh, yeah.
And it just blew my mind. And then soon after that, they put on Countdown, they had about 35 seconds of the Sex Pistols doing Anarchy in the UK. And it was just like year zero. Everything changed. The door, I thought, this is what I want to do.
I find that interesting because I remember when they did that on Countdown, and I had a really hard time understanding it. I didn't dislike it, but I found it very difficult after I'd been listening to Free and some Kiss, I suppose, and there was, T-Rex, David Bowie, all this kind of stuff. And they showed, a bit of Anarchy in the UK or whatever it was, and I just couldn't connect properly. I was thinking, what is this, And that's how fresh I think it was,
Yeah.
So that really turned you, yeah?
Yeah, it was like direct to my brain. It's like it just went straight in. I remember going to see one of the first bands I went to see at a pub when I started going out drinking and stuff.
Yeah.
I went to see Bleeding Hearts at the Tiger Room, and I was coming back and I was out. We were still doing kind of. We only played one or two gigs as the first Subway. We do terrible versions of Rolling Stone songs and my song. We once did this, so we were playing the Bayswater Youth Club and we did a Rolling Stone song. Mm. And then someone said, why don't you do a Rolling Stone song? I said, we just did one. They couldn't recognize it.
But with Subway, therefore, we are not a mod band.
No, Subway was actually a rock and roll band. That was when I got the band in to help with my songs. But then I had this, coming back from the Bleeding Hearts again at Tiger Room, we pulled up to the traffic lights, and a car pulled up beside me, and in there, we had all the drums and things in the back. It was our band.
Yeah.
And the guy next door said, hey, you guys, are you in a band? I said, yeah. And they said, what are you called? Subway. And this was Bruce Milne. And Bruce Milne goes, so what kind of music are you into? And, normally I would say T-Rex, Stones, all that kind of stuff. But, I had just seen the Saints. I've been getting the Enemy all the time, and I called out things like the Stooges and MC5 and
fantastic.
And I think Bruce was a bit knocked out a bit that someone there's a band here because there wasn't many punk bands around.
No.
And we weren't a punk band at the time, but I kind of in that car when he asked me that question of what music I was into.
Yeah.
And I had New York Dolls, that's right. I thought,
fantastic first record.
David Bowie used to recommend bands. I'd go and buy the things. So I bought New York Dolls and I bought Iggy Pop. So these are the ones I called out. Anyway, so when I got home that day, I remember going to my bedroom and in Oakley, I think I was living, and deciding that I was going to change the band. So I went back to the Subway that I had, and my girlfriend was in it. I said, well, you're no longer in it now. We're going to be a punk band. And the guitarist that I knew from, it was a really good guitarist, he said, I'm not being in a punk band, I'm out. So it's just,
So it's just
me, the drummer, and a friend of mine. And we got another bass player, but he didn't even turn up we had one more gig at Subway.
Yeah.
And it was just a free piece. And the bass player says, I can't make it. He says, that's all right. I saw the Clash on the front cover Enemies. They didn't have a drummer. So why do we need a bass player? So we just played it anyway. But so Subway...
That's the demise of Subway, yeah.
Yeah, so we're a punk band. No, it wasn't a demise. What happened was then I went to a Radio Birdman gig.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Bruce Milne had said there's a band called The Obsessions, which was Rob Wellington and Roland Howard.
Yeah.
And anyway, they were breaking up. They weren't going to go very far. Ollie Olsen. They were going to do other things.
Mm.
And when I asked Rob Wellington if he'll join on bass, and I did. I met him, and I said, do you want to come along and hear Subway? And he thought we were terrible, so he didn't join the band.
Yeah.
But I went to a Radio Birdman gig a bit later, and he was there pogoing, and I talked to him out the back, and we had a chat about it.
You mean on a
said,
pogo stick?
No, pogoing was a dance where you jumped up and down.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh,
So
okay.
it's called the pogo.
Yeah.
Anyway, punk bands. And so we went out the back, and he goes, listen, you know, it's terrible. I like some of your songs, Rob, but, you know, like, your band sounds terrible. And so he'll join if he's a guitar player and if we change the name from Subway. So he said,
Oh,
right, we'll do that.
That's pressure, isn't it, on you?
Yeah, but, you know, like, he was very cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so he joined the band, and we became The Fiction.
Ah, The Fiction. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
right.
Subway was The Fiction. So basically the Subway with me and the drummer stayed, and for a while the other guitarist stayed for a little bit, but we were The Fiction. And that really good guitarist that lived behind the church
Yeah.
that left because we're a punk band,
Yeah.
he came back and, you know, we said, listen, do you want to come back and play bass? We got, you know,
Yeah.
and we didn't expect it to. And he said, oh, okay, don't do nothing.
Yeah.
So he joined, and he was really good bass player. And because he was a great lead guitarist, but playing bass, that's what changed The Fiction style, I think.
Well, tell me now. I'm moving forward a bit, but we're going to just bring it back. How many years did The Fiction go for?
Probably about less than a year.
Less than a year, and you got
now.
Yeah.
So we come backwards. No, we've been gone 6 years
No, I
already.
know, but back then, less than a year, and
Yeah,
in that
78.
time, you'd recorded a record too, yeah?
Not then. We recorded it in early '79, actually.
So,
After
yeah, go on.
all right. So what happened was in 1978 we. Oh, wait a minute. You're talking about the first Fiction album,
Yeah, the first Fiction record, yeah.
Negative Fun. Well, that wasn't an album. That was a cassette.
Right.
That was just that was even before we had the bass player. So there's no bass on that. That was just me, the drummer, and the guitarist.
Right, okay.
And so we had a cassette, and so we released that through Off the Hip as I know.
As many did, Rob. Released it on cassette. Cassette was big, and you'd sell it.
Oh no, we
at
didn't release it on
gigs.
cassette.
Didn't you?
No, it was just a cassette. You know, one of those little cassette players.
Oh, really?
That you press the two things down at once.
And that's what you recorded it on?
Yeah, so we recorded our first album.
Kidding me? Oh, that's unbelievable. Yeah, okay, go on.
We didn't release it until a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So that was like, then we.
Well, did the Fiction in that year? Let's call it a year. You said less than a year, but let's go a year.
78, yeah.
In that time, did you get a lot of shows, and were you pulling an audience?
Right. So what happened was our first show. I guess we only played about 8 or 10 altogether. The first show was. I mean, there was only about 5 or 6 punk bands. We're talking about Boys Next Door and Young Charlatans and the Negatives and the News. And
Chosen Few, not around then?
No, they came 79, I think.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, so they sometimes get put into the back of the first bands. They went, and there was only about 6 to begin, and even the article came a couple of months later on.
And Teenage Radio Stars were later on too, weren't they?
Yeah, well, they came, mid-78. They came because after a band called Spread broke up, which was Sean Kelly's band.
We're about to
so
release Teenage Radio Stars too, by the way.
Pun? Really?
We're about to release a record, yeah.
Okay, I Want to Be Your Baby.
Oh, it's unbelievable. When you listen to it, Rob, when it does come out, and I'll send you a pre-listen, is that it's James singing, of course, most of it.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even know it was him. It is shouting all the way through, the whole show is just sensational. I mean, it is just unbelievable. Anyway.
Well, it's a live show?
It's a live show, yeah.
Oh, right.
It's absolutely fantastic. So let's pull it back. So therefore, the Fiction have done, what, about 8 shows then?
Yeah, we did, playing with all, Nick Cave and all those kind of things.
And that was it. So how does that come to an end? What's going on?
Well, what happened was, in around about October or so, I came down with some kind of malnutrition sickness, so I was bedridden for a few weeks or so. Now, in those days, if your contact, I didn't have a phone, neither did half then. So if your contact breaks down, we lost communication for a little while.
Yeah.
And Rob Wellington thought it was a bit more serious. I don't know why he thought that. And it just seemed that he drifted off. He wanted to do his own band called the International Exiles.
Yeah.
So what I did was I said, well, all right, so Fiction's not working. So I said to him, let's do a few more gigs, rehearse ourselves at the gigs at a place called The Champion in Fitzroy. We'll do 3 gigs, and then we'll go up to the country and record a single, which would be Things Will Be Different and Tell Me I'm Yours. So use that practice at The Champion. Now, those Champion gigs were fantastic. They were packed out with people. Yeah. 3 Thursdays in a row. Nigel Renaud was running it. I think he called the gig Scabs, which is a terrible name. Yeah. Anyway, so it was great. I thought, come on, why don't we just keep the Fiction going? We're going to, the song sounds great when we recorded it. We've got a great audience, but, they left. So I had to finish the record with my producer, Stuart Beattie. We finished it together. And I couldn't call it The Fiction because there was only me left. Yeah. And the bass player. So that's when I called it Little Murders instead. Oh, wow. So that is the start of the Little Murders. Yeah. Okay. Now, the Little Murder. Now, at the end of The Fiction, when you talk about mod, kind of one of the last gigs we did was at Croydon, some Croydon Hall or something with news. Yeah. And I convinced the band all to wear suits because I was really into, I had my 2 favorite bands at the time were The Clash and The Jam. Now, The Jam I really loved. Now, the Jam thing was very mod. And I when I was young, I was very much into all those kind of films like Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner and Billy Liar and all those English kitchen sink dramas. Yeah. That was my thing to watch at home because they're the only things on TV, and I was from an English household. Yeah. So I really got into the Jam, and I really liked the mod thing. And at the same time, a group of friends I was with were really getting into the 60s type thing. I would take to parties, I would take tapes, cassettes of my mix of things like Small Faces, The Who, right? Yeah. Now, that parties with the punks and stuff, they were moving somewhere else. Punks were moving into, Melbourne punks were following the lead of, say, Nick Cave and the Boys Next Door. They were going towards post-punk. Yeah. Now, that wasn't what I wasn't really getting into it much. I wanted more of the pop punk, the undertones and things like that. And that started leading towards me and my friends started wearing mod clothes. Yes, yeah. So basically in 79, I was still a punk until we released the record, which was Things Were Different, Tell Me I'm Yours. And then I went to England, and I landed in London. Now, when are we talking, Rob? Give me late 79. Late 79. And what were you, about 20? Oh, no, I'd be 79. I'd be 22 or 23. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I landed right in the middle of the mod thing. I remember getting to London and going to a record store in Leicester Square. The records walk in, and they got that Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs playing, and there's actually people dancing, girls in 60s minis and stuff like that. They were dancing to the song in a record shop at the Square. And I was going, this is the scene I want to go be in. Yeah. Yeah. Even though when I got on the train, some of those mods were a bit, scary because there was a few rough mods there too. And, little 12-year-old tough guys walking around in their little mod suits. Oh, yeah. A bit scary, really. But But most of the time, when I saw some bands over there, and I was there when the Top of the Pops was on, and they had those three, the specials, the Beat, and Madness all in one night.
Yeah.
Big mod thing there.
How long did you stay in the UK for?
I was there about by then I was a teacher, so I was my school holidays, came back, and I came back with tons of 60s stuff, soul records, posters, and I actually bought a Union Jack coat, actually. I remember doing that.
Oh, okay.
I turned fully fledged mod, came back, and then I, got together with our friends, and we actually basically created the scene here. We opened a nightclub.
The first album that's kind of out of Little Murders that we've got up online is the best of, isn't it? 78 to 86.
Top plus singles, yeah.
Yeah, which essentially has it got a mixture of punk to mod or what?
The mod, it goes, I guess. Well, see, things were different, which is the first song on it, which is the opening. It's a mod anthem.
Yeah.
So, and
that's right. I know that song. Yeah.
So when it came out, I would say it was a kind of a punk album, but it's become a mod anthem. And Take Me On Yours is a very much an R&B.
Well, isn't it funny, Rob? As we talk here about punk right now, and at the time. Back in the day, I used to think they're so loud or so distorted, those guitars and whatever. And I listen to the Sex Pistols now as basically verging on pop to rock.
Yeah. It's not even that. I mean, if you listen to the Sex Pistols, it's not that fast.
I know.
It's quite slow, and it's a very good, and a lot of those bands, like Undertones and stuff, because punk has taken on a different meaning, I think. Because punk people like, I'm trying to think of the Exploited and things like that, heavy. And
the heavy.
Punk wasn't like that. Punk was probably a bad name. Punk is like the 60s garage band.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Sonic.
And I think if you listen locally, maybe Steve Lucas and X and Ian Ryland, because they're considered punk, and you listen to that, and that's a lot of, that high-pitched singing and distorted guitars and whatever. But, But
they were a Sydney band, weren't they?
Yes, they were. They were Sydney, and then he relocated back to Melbourne. But so we go there. So we've got that. So we've got that first best of, which is we've got as 1986. Now now we go to Little Murders' First Light. So because we know the first record is a consolidation of quite a few years of work by you, right?
Yeah.
So we get to First Light. What's going on there?
Well, there's another album before that, but that's not up. So, I've never, I don't think for some reason I keep overlooking it. It's called And Stuff Like That.
Well, you should send that over and we should put it up.
Yeah, I know. I keep, at the time I was kind of, because it has a few re-recordings of songs on stock singles.
Yeah.
And a few new ones. I'm never really that happy with it. There's some good songs on it, but only a few. And I always planned to actually redo it, but I never did.
Maybe it's an EP, Rob, that we put out as an EP.
Yeah, I'll have a go for it and send it over. Anyway, so basically, after Little Murders kind of broke up in 1986, everybody left. I think Rob, Mick Barker went and joined Paul Kelly.
Yeah.
Rod went off with, I can't remember where he went now, Pete Best Beatles into Dave Graney, etc. So, and I started doing DJing. So I was DJing in the late 80s and early 90s. I opened a club called the Lizard Lounge in the 90s.
Yeah, we all know the Lizard Lounge.
So, and then, but I was still writing stuff and I was still going in to record. So that the album You Haven't Got, I started recording that in 93.
Yeah.
Left it alone. And then it came back in 1986. But some friends of mine came to Lizard Lounge and they wanted to put out a record. And I said, I can help put out a record.
Yeah.
I'll start the record label. I got something to do with my time.
Yeah.
So I put out a label called Swerve. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to put out other people's records, I might as well put out mine. So the first one was a bit of a mixture of things I've been doing. But then First Flight was when I first probably the first album I ever wrote as an album. Sat down and actually wrote all the songs.
But was there a band? Was there a band, Rob, or was it just you?
No, there was. I put together a band. It was Paul Thomas from Hoxton Creepers,
Yeah.
Craig Pilkington from the Killjoys was on bass.
Yeah,
Mick Barclay came back, played drums, and Mick Barclay brought along a girl called Kate Stalker to sing backing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the first band.
There's
Just before
a few good names there, my friend.
Yeah, well, I've always been very fortunate to work with really good musicians.
Look, and I think for everybody listening, we did that one show during the pandemic, which we got you to do because we just wanted to do shows for bands, Yeah. I think it was at Musicland, and I think I remember you saying you might have even had a bit of a cold that day, but anyway, sensationally live, what a band! And I know that's possibly a different band from what we're talking here, but musically, you used to put on such an excellent show. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you.
So anyway, we've got First Light. So that's the kind of, as you said, the first one which you've written as an album as a whole, and is, I suppose, distinguishing your style or solidifying your style. Yeah? Yeah.
So I was, at all kinds of aspects of a bit mod and a bit folky at the same time. And
Now
it covered all bases of my writing, really. I forgot I was I was doing something musically a little before they called it Val Doonican. Some of the songs were that.
Val Doonican? Oh, God.
We had a name called the Folk Rockets from Hell.
Yeah, right.
That's right. And I didn't like it because we'd got it from Greg Champion Rockets from Hell.
Oh, yeah.
Folk Rockets. So we changed it to Val Doonican. And it was just me and Rod Hayward and a violin player, Adam Duncan. He used to play with the Hunters in their little string quartet when they had a string quartet for little songs. Anyway, so a lot of those songs were all written around then. Yeah, because I never stopped writing. I can't stop writing, which is,
Well, we should be home by now, okay?
Yeah, so that's when I went in with the band.
Yeah.
And now what happened the day before, Paul Thomas, our guitarist, said he has to go and get a job. So I thought, what do you mean you got to get a job? Yeah, he says you can't be on social anymore.
Yeah.
So he couldn't come to the recording. So then I asked Rod Hayward to come and do some guitar as well as Craig Pilkington. And then Mick Barclay brought along Tony Robertson. Said, listen, because Craig was in Killjoys and he's a producer. He said Tony Robertson was from the Hitmen.
Oh, yeah. Johnny Canis and the Hitmen, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he joined on bass and he was a great bass player. So then we had me, Mick, Tony Robinson and Rod Hayward as the band. And so that was supposed to be
was the album
album.
Was the album written prior, or did you have sessions together?
I wrote it all beforehand. Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, so you've written everything.
So a lot of these albums take 2 or 3 writing a few years to get together before I get in there, and the albums take a while to record because then we recorded during the week. Yeah. But now we're recording Saturdays. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, whenever you can get there and put some tracks down. So, and there's, there's 14 songs, and that's a lot of songs for an album. So you're really punching out these songs, Rob.
Yeah.
We get to Dig for Plenty. Now, what a cover. I kind of see that as a quintessential cover for you guys, or for Little Murders.
Oh, okay.
What a cover. Just a fantastic cover art. How did that come about?
Thank you.
Who did that?
Cover. I don't know. I dig up the pictures for the cover, and then I give them to. I got a few friends that do art, and they make it look a bit better. I think I can't remember. I was looking for a car.
Well, what's Dig for Plenty mean? What does Dig for Plenty mean?
Dig for Plenty comes from a poster that during World War II.
Yeah.
And they used to have these posters around, and it was a big box of fruits and vegetables. But what you did was during the war in the UK, they wanted you to plant, and you not have gardens of flowers, but gardens of vegetables and stuff.
Yeah.
So you dig for plenty.
Wow. So that's very good explanation, I must say.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be the front cover, but luckily we didn't have vegetables on the front cover.
But yeah, what a great cover that was. Then it
was a great album to make. That was really when basically what happened was before that I got in touch with Mick Beattie of Off the Hip, and he said, let's put out the Stop album, my first album, Stop, and on CD, because it's never been on CD, and we add all the other tracks. So in 2008, we put that out. And because we did a few gigs, we played about 4 or 5 gigs just to promote Stop Plus Singles.
Yeah.
I kind of got the bug again.
Yeah.
But I had a more rock and roll bug, I guess, and Dig for Penny was great making that album. It just, to me, I still like listening to it, still, you know.
Yeah. It's
one of my favourite albums of myself.
I've got to say, it's probably one of my favourites, and you said the word there, it's a little bit more rock, yeah?
Yeah, it was when, because we should be home by now. I think I was still writing a lot on acoustic guitars and stuff, but after we did all these Stop Plus Singles and played all those old songs, I just couldn't stop writing.
Yeah.
I've written mostly the Go album, which comes after that. That was halfway at the same time. I could have put some of those tracks on Dig for Penny easily.
Well, you look at that again. We've got an amazing cover. I mean, it's just a great cover. Cover art is so important. There is some artists who I find are just not even interested in cover art, just about the music. But the cover art is just fantastic. And I mean, why that cover art? Why a girl with a surfboard?
I don't know. I've got this fascination with surf. I'm looking I got a post on my wall for people at the beach. It comes, I think, mainly because I was hanging out with Danny McDonald from P76. Do you know that band?
No, I don't.
Great. I should get you in touch with them.
Yeah.
Jericho, there used to be a band called Jericho. Anyway, so he was playing with us quite a bit, and his cover art for his album, Into the Sun, I'd used a Qantas poster mixed up, and I liked that idea, and I liked the idea. We did I think there's a song Rock Academy on Dig for Penny where we used surf backing vocals.
Yeah.
I just think I was trying to get more Australian look to the album and a feel to it. I know I got an
quintessential indie cover. There were no doubt about it. That's a quintessential Australian indie band cover art. I mean, it fits right into that slot of that time period to me.
I had to do with, and the album was going to be called Waiting for the Sun at first.
Oh.
Which is the first track. It was going to be the first track, but it got moved in the end.
3, yeah.
But Waiting for the Sun was going to be the title. But then I just felt like we were in a really good spot, and I thought, well, the first album that we did was called Stop.
Yeah.
So this album is going to be called Go.
Well,
because we're doing a lot better. I felt very confident. And
well, tell me a little bit about a song. You got a song in there, American Cool. Now you're being very much more English centric. There's no doubt about that. And how do we get a song called American Cool in there? What's it about?
I've been dealing with working with a friend of mine, a band called the Eddies in America, and they were very big Middle Earth supporters, and I was writing songs for them.
Yeah.
Also, one of the things I like to do when I write is I like to write for bands. So even if they don't want them, so I might. So one of my favorite bands there at the time was a band called the Wild Oscars,
Oh yeah,
which is a Melbourne band.
No, don't.
They played with us a few times. Anyway, they're great things.
Yeah.
So the lead singer, Jay, is an American.
Yeah.
And I just tried writing a song for the band. I thought, he's American. I got this American feeling. And also, we're getting a lot of attention from American. I just got a new publisher in America. Well, not a publisher, but somebody's going to play songs for me in films.
Yes.
And I thought, I like America. So I go in a movie. I'm very English centered still, but I still write about London and things. But I'm getting more worldly, aren't I?
Well, let's move on to High Fab. Again, a really indie centric cover for Australia.
Yeah, that's me when I was young. I'm the middle guy.
Great. It's just a great cover. A great name. Yeah. Okay, that's you in the middle, is it? In the red.
Yeah, Daredevil.
Yeah, gotcha. Daredevil. And so
my mum made that costume.
Well, how did this album come about? So, and what was the vibe too, Rob? Because did you find that as you wrote these last 3 albums that we've just been talking about, the vibe was very similar going in, or do you go in with a different mindset towards the instrumental side of it as opposed to the vocal and lyrics?
Well, the band kept changing. Again, it's another change. I go through a lot of lineup. People leaving and going. High Fab is Tony, Rod, Tony, and then I've got another guitar player in there called Danny. That's when Danny joined for that one. That's when he was in the band.
Right.
Again, more power pop. I try to write, when I'm trying to, the whole album is based on that first song, 24 Hours from London.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the album, what song is on the album. But
I love the Chemicals. Whenever I look at you, All the Money in the World, Merry-Go-Round, She's the Real Thing, Last Bus. I mean, man, you do pack it in.
Yeah. So, I suppose it's a bit of a kind of travel log, really.
Yeah, well, tell me.
It started off as a travel log.
Well, from that band there, so if where I saw you, say at that Musicland gig, that band there, is that this band here?
No.
Right. Okay.
That band there is the band. The band that played Musicland is the Dramana Rama band.
Right. Okay. So, we're moving up to. Oh, that's not even it. So then we had the best of again, which we've got another best of, which is fair enough.
Yeah, that best of was for when we went to Japan.
Yep.
That's the best of. That covers from 79 to 2017, I think.
Well, tell us a little bit about going to Japan too. What happened? What was going on over there?
Well, that was mind blowing. That was I went there in 2017.
Yeah.
And just with my family for a holiday.
Yeah.
And I went to a place called Poor Cow in
I know nothing about Japan. Yeah, go on.
Anyway, so I went to this place called Poor Cow, which is Power Pop Central. And I went in there and I was there with Phil Cabot from the Boys Next Door birthday party.
Yeah.
Having a drink. And they were all, very excited that the birthday party guy was there. But I went up to the guy and said, listen, my friend Bruce Milne said I should say hello to you. The guy's Fifi. He was and I said hello. He goes, hello, how are you going? I said, yeah. I'm in a band called Little Murders. And, they just went crazy. They went, what are you doing? So I had to sign all this stuff and there's people gathering around me.
So what did you do? You did a bit of a 360 look around going, are they referring to me?
Yeah, that was just, I thought, and I didn't know. And then, I went back on my own a bit later to go to the Halloween ball and just by myself about 6 months later. And then I got to meet all these other people and, and they just kind of they liked them, I didn't realize that I had pockets of people that love Little Murders all around the world.
Yeah.
So this is, and with the internet and stuff now, I know that I've got fans in Poland and Scandinavia and stuff. It just blows my mind. Anyway, this was a real thing. I mean, that's just people writing you email stuff.
Yeah.
But when you're in, people go around you and go, you got to tour. You got to do the tour. And I thought, well, I'm making an album. So I think I went back to, I went to a show. I went and saw the Stranglers at the Forum.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a friend of mine there called Pip, who's in a band called Wrong Turn. I said to him, listen, what would you do? Would you go on tour Japan and you use all your money to go on tour, or would you put out a new album? He goes, just go on tour. You got plenty of albums. So that's it. So I said, all right, we're going. And it was just so exciting going there.
So did you contact, therefore, to do that? Did you get onto the guy?
Well, I met these people at the Halloween Ball in 2017, 2017, the Halloween Ball. And through those, through them, they said they'll help me organize it. And they did. They organized these gigs. And then I got onto Facebook and found venues, further afield and got some of my own gigs. And it was just so easy to get the tour together.
Yeah. Wow. And when that happens, it takes the pressure right off. And I mean, you were so lucky pre-pandemic, yeah?
Oh, yeah. And because I went the year after, I went with the Fiction. So I'd come back by then.
I remember that one where you did that, yeah. And how did that go compared to Little Murders?
Same.
Just fantastic.
They loved it, Then again, a few of them advertisers, Little Murders underneath it.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
And when I was over there, I bought books on Little Murders. There's books with Little Murders in them, which was mind blowing. It's in Japanese, but I can't read it. So, but
oh mate, that it freaks me out. Then again,
we get that with there's somebody gave me a couple of years ago. They gave me this album, which is a Greek album, and it's got Little Murders on it. I thought, I didn't license that; they just took it.
Yeah.
But then I don't mind because
Look, I mean, you do. It's different if you're setting the world on fire, and there's a lot of money involved. It's so easy to keep that under control. Right, but on another level, you kind of go, well, and what am I going to do to them, and how much money would I get out of that? So it's just good publicity at that stage. There's this balance in there. So we've got Dramarama, right?
Yeah.
So we've got Dramarama. We go from there, and then we go to Anglesey Live 81. So tell me a little bit about Anglesey Live 81. And that was Anglesey, and that's in Anglesey down the coast.
Yeah, that tape has been around for a while, but it's such a good tape, and we thought we're going to clean it up and release it because it's such strong versions, and it's got some great cover versions of Garage Land, and it's such and also it was a different lineup than any of the album.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was the lineup that did Don't Let Go and Dancing Away. It's Tim Brooker from Paul Kelly's band, and there was a band called The Leftovers from Bendigo, and we've got Kim and and Paul Homburg playing there, and Stuart.
Has there been any stability right through? Is it just you, or was it you and someone else? Right, right throughout the history of Little Murders.
No, just me.
Just you?
I guess. The closest you could get to it probably be Rod Hayward.
Yeah. Okay.
Was with us from 1982 to 1985, and then he's been with me now since we were in the Valdinicas together, and he's played
the
with
guitarist?
me for years.
The guitar?
Yeah.
The short
he's really
guitarist?
good guitarist.
The shorter one?
But I don't know if it's... No, I don't know. I don't know how you define short.
No, I define...
Same size as me.
Yeah, I go by the show that I saw you at.
I think we're all the same size. The other two guitars are the same size. I just think maybe the short one is the bold one.
Oh, yes, It's sensational guitarist, sensational.
He's really good. He's playing Tory Dave Graney soon. So.
Is he? Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, and that's what's really good too, is that ability to bring that live performance to life from the record that you do. And I think too, what I love was, when I saw you live, is that mod look and, the jumping up and down and it brings vitality and energy to the show. There's no doubt about it. And
you mean me jumping up and down?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I just find that there's not enough of the theatrics in a sense with artists, because we are all entertainers. You're up there entertaining people, and sometimes just standing there, unfortunately, is nowhere near good enough. And you need to give them. It's an extension of the music, as we all know what you do up there, and it really fits into a category that doesn't kind of exist here. There's no. Not really. I mean, I suppose there might be underground bands doing it who I don't know of, but I don't know of anybody doing it, what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so it brings a real, I think, a freshness. And that live show was just fantastic to see. It was just great during the pandemic. And you've finished off with a couple of new tracks that you've put out. Just in the last year, correct?
Oh yes, the Wait Till the Summer Comes.
And what's happening there for? So there's a couple of new tracks.
Well, they came out 7-inch singles.
Yeah,
they came out as 7-inch singles, so they're on the new album, which is it's gone slow. Where we usually do our recording is Audrey Studios in Coburg with Craig Pilkington, but he's rebuilding his studio, so I don't know if we can go back in. We're nearly finished. Just got to add a few more things to it.
Yeah.
So, but at the moment, I'm working on also the Fiction album. Yesterday we just about finished it. So,
but is that with now? Who's that with? I mean, who's in the band in the Fiction?
Rob Wellington, who was in International Exiles, from the original. Is the original guy. Adam Lerner, who's the bass player used to be in Blue Ruin, and he's
wow, what a band, eh? What a band.
Yeah, Blue Ruin, they were great. Yeah. And then the drummer is Al on drums.
Yeah.
And he's in a few bands too. And Rusty Tulloch, who was in Cold Harbour.
I don't know them. But is that essentially nearly the nucleus of the original fiction?
No, just me and Rob.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
just me and Rob Robinson, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me,
Two Robs.
What's the difference? Well, okay, let's say we've got 2 new albums coming, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the fiction genre-wise and Little Murders genre-wise on these two?
Well, genre, the Little Murders are more power pop.
Yeah.
There's a little mod overtones.
Yeah.
The fiction of post-punk with pop overtones.
Right. Okay.
So with the fiction, I'm aiming more toward, I do a bit of pop punk, but we also do a bit of post-punk in a sense. We're trying to style it. Yeah. Where with Little Murders, we spend a lot of time on getting the harmonies and the jangle in there.
Yeah, okay. Anything scheduled to go back to Japan ever again or not?
We were supposed to go back in October this year, but there's so many bands over there, and the cost and stuff was a bit, we had 4 gigs booked, and then I thought, well, if we're going to do 2 weeks there and only play a few gigs, we might as well wait and go next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be a lot cheaper next year. I just think
absolutely.
Prices, they say it's going to change. And also, there was just competing against an influx of lots of other bands going at the same time.
Wow,
so lots of American bands going over there because I guess it's COVID's open everything up. It's like, like you go on Facebook now and everybody's on holiday overseas. Everybody's over there. I can't get away from seeing people's pictures of Europe, seeing so many more,
Well, what's interesting is what you just said is that the airfares are so expensive. Now, I only read yesterday that Qantas had released 1 million airfares, and so I said to some friends, who were thinking about going overseas, you should have a look. And they were talking like, $1,100 return airfares to LA, $1,700 return to New York. And so you're 100% correct. I think we're going to see a reduction in those airfares definitely next year. Things are outrageous, just outrageous post-pandemic, and the cost of living is just outrageous for. I think for the lower socio-economic, it would be killing them. It just we've got a lot of fixing up to do. But anyway, put that aside. We've been going over an hour, Rob, on the career of Rob Griffiths, essentially. And from those days when we started, where you came over at the age of 8, it's been a fantastic career. So there's some great music in there, and it'd be great to see you live again. There's no doubt about it. Okay.
Well, thank you.
And hopefully we get to hear a new album soon and some new music again. So thank you for coming on board to Laneway. Thanks for talking to us on our podcast, and we will talk to you again re your new records. I would suggest that next year. Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed that, there's more. Just search Laneway Talks for more great conversations.